Hey guys, we are back at it with another game, potentially a redemption arc story in the making. In episode 1 of Random Video Game Repair, we found this Game Boy game to have some very quirky and bizarre and strange faults. But we were unable to fix it in that video. But perhaps I have learned some more and we can go through the repair process and finally get it to work. So first off, testing to show exactly what the issue is. We take our game, insert it into the Game Boy SP, and doop, and there is absolutely nothing on the screen. Green light, and it's not the battery. Now here's the weird thing. If we turn this on, Game Boy logo. Game Boy? Game Boy logo. So, when we insert the game, nothing at all, which is very, very strange because as far as I know and understand it, the Game Boy logo is stored on the Game Boy itself, and it should start up with the Game Boy logo, and it is not. So there is something catastrophically wrong with this game cartridge. It is stopping the Game Boy from even getting to that area, which is very, very strange. Now, I was very pleased and very happy to receive a lot of very insightful and helpful comments, and I appreciate every single one of them. And I wanted to go over some of them and kind of give an idea of what we could be doing wrong or what we could try and show that this is not the fix. So first off, both Simple-Minded Sage and Fuzzy2K had the idea that perhaps it is the Game Boy Advance that is the issue, or perhaps it is the shell of the game that could be the problem. So first off, let's take a look at, is it the Game Boy Advanced? So first, we've got another game, which is not Home Alone actually, but we'll show that off in a second. Same Game Boy, original Game Boy game, and it has the Game Boy logo, the Nintendo logo, and it is working. So it is not the Game Boy Advanced SP or some issue with switching between the Game Boy Advanced component or the Game Boy Advanced issue. Now, just to rule it out completely, we will also take this apart, take the game out, which obviously you saw was not Home Alone, but it was actually Play Action Pool. I have no idea why someone switched out the game boards, but they did eventually. This was not an original game to me, so I have no idea what happened. But let's take our side pocket pool, we'll put it into the Home Alone case, and we will set it in there, turn it on, and still absolutely nothing. Still have the green light, which I think that the green light also may be slightly dimmer when we have the game out of it. I think that's brighter with the game out. So now we can also take this and just to rule out 100,000%, it is not the Game Boy Advanced or the shell. So we have the Game Boy Color here, turn it on, and there is still nothing. No logo, nothing at all. So, and this is what it should start up with, and it's not even getting the sound at all. So, we have ruled out the shell, we've ruled out the Game Boy, so it is neither of those. Now, there was a question that I received from a couple of people, or rather some advice, to the advice of a couple of more commenters, Fennec Tech and JDC 1197. They were thinking maybe that there is a short to ground. Now, I am not a professional nor an expert, and I'm like, how do I test short to grounds? So thankfully JDC replied, and I asked if you take your multimeter and you put it into continuity mode, and then you take your black probe and you take your red probe and you put it on ground in VDD, and there's no beeps. So I don't believe that there is any short to ground, and JDC 1197 confirmed that I did that right, and hopefully I did do that right. So now where are we at? Well, it's not the shell, it's not a short to ground. Potentially I've done all the probing with the multimeter, seeing if there was any break, anything that would be causing a short to ground or potentially a break in the continuity of the traces. And so far we have not found anything yet. However, thanks to 2 commenters. Casey Cornet 5182 said that he could be wrong, but the resistors that I thought I had found in the previous video, these little doodads here, are not actually resistors. Now, obviously, if we look at this closely, you might be saying to yourself, well, duh, because it's printed on this silk screen right here, C2, or rather, yeah, C2 and C1, 103, and it even has the little indicator that says capacitor. Now, as you can see, they're peach, they have axial leads, and they have colorful bands. So I thought, well, those are resistors. I had no idea that resistors could look like capacitors, and apparently capacitors can look like resistors. So now we are going to go down these resistors. And thankfully to one person in particular was super helpful and guided me on a few things, and we'll go over through his comments really quickly. So the person in particular that was very, very helpful, and I believe he was the first one to say that I was wrong on these, and these were capacitors, not resistors, but he said that blank screen and dim light, green light, which we had on our SP here, sounds like the cartridge itself is short-circuited. Now, we cannot find a short circuit. Now, also, I do want to point out, before we continue, this area sure does look a little thin, like the copper has been worn down, and I did notice this the first day, and I don't know if this means anything, but this copper here, so we should not be getting continuity here because this should be covered in some solder mask, so maybe there's something that is broken down. But so far, we've gotten every trace goes to everywhere that it should. Again, I don't know if that is part of the problem, but let's go back to what Talus DS was suggesting. In the comments, they also mentioned that they were pretty sure that the resistors are in fact capacitors, and they're probably 10 nanofarad each. He also suggested that when I was measuring the circuitry with the diode test, it usually will not give any useful result unless we know very specifically what to expect. Just to elaborate on that, in my video, I took my multimeter, put it onto diode mode, connected red probe to ground, and we connected black probe to one of the pins of the MBC chip here, and looks like we found it. No wait, or is it this pin? Yes. So this pin is at 1240, which is higher if we take a look at this other game here, which say has the same chip, although it may be slightly different. If we take our multimeter and do the same thing, yeah, all these pins are between 709. Oh, wait. 1240. I did not see that before. Okay. 12. Yeah, okay. So, well, maybe those pins were normal. I thought for sure that I was getting low numbers everywhere. So that's going to be interesting to check that out. Well, that's the reason I thought that the MBC chip here, or the mapper, was the issue. But if we're getting a high number on this one, so maybe we're on the same and the mapper is working. Okay, interesting. So that's throwing me for a loop already. Okay, well, let's stick with the capacitors first. So in the comment, back to Talus DS, he didn't know if I measured continuity from VDD to ground, which I did, and we just showed that off. And it went on to comment, okay, usually you want to check for continuity using the diode test red to plus VE, black to ground. So I'm not sure what plus VE is. Maybe over here, I don't know. We'll go ahead and check that out. We'll go ahead and run this test now that we're in here, and just to show this. And we're gonna, so he said black on ground and red on V plus. So is this V plus? Oh, maybe I was doing that wrong then. Have you guys ever had one of those days where everything just seems to go wrong or you feel like you're going a little crazy because just things are not quite adding up to what you thought they were going to be? Well, I'm having one of those days, and I do not understand what is happening, because before I made this video, when I was commenting on Talus DS's comments on my video, he was saying you take your multimeter into continuity mode. You can take your, I believe he said black probe on ground and then red probe on the capacitor. And if you do that, it should give you a high number and then go to 0. Now, when I tried that, after his guidance, I tried that, my multimeter stuck at a high number, and I'm like, well, that's strange. And I tried it on my other game that worked, Batman, which I did in the video. It actually goes to a high number and then jumps down to 0, which Talos DS said that means that the capacitor is charging from the voltage from these. I forgot to put my plane into air. Why do I say that? I forgot to put my phone into airplane mode. Not my plane into airplane mode, but my phone into airplane mode. Otherwise, I'm going to get all sorts of little notifications. 1 second. Okay, now the phone is in airplane mode. Back to what I was saying is you're supposed to get a high number in diode mode, or really continuity mode, but I guess it's diode mode. Maybe it's like both, but you send a voltage from one probe to the other, and then it calculates how many voltages come back from one probe to the other. So when we are doing our diode mode testing on this capacitor, as far as I understand it, it's supposed to go to a high number and then go down to 0, like we just showed. It was not doing that earlier, I swear. So now we are actually getting what we want. High number or a beep or whatever, and it goes to 0. In this one, starts at a high number and goes down to 0. And this is the game that is not working. I don't understand why that's doing that now, because I was trying to get ideas and try to like, hey, this is not this, or could you give me some help? And I said that the multimeter was giving a high number. Of course, still, even with all that, of course, going back and forth, I did mention that. And he said that, well, it probably means that the capacitors are fine. And now that we're getting the right measurement, it probably means capacitors are fine too. And we'll just go ahead and test out play action football. And it does the exact same thing. And in case I'm not being clear, the diode mode sends voltage between these 2 points and gets back whatever, and it's charging the capacitor to see if it actually charges and then dissipates, or I really don't know. I've lost all sense of reality here. So let me try something, because this is crazy now. Was it, maybe I was doing this. Let me just make sure. Was I doing this? No, that does it too. So that is so strange. I don't understand why I'm getting different measurements now. Because again, it was high and it's stuck at high. In fact, it was high, a really high number, like, I don't know, 1900 or something, and it was clicking down, slowly going down. Now it's like, zzz, goes right down. So I am thoroughly confused now, because I thought that we finally figured something out, that these were not resistors, but were actually capacitors, and that maybe we could switch them out. And to be fair, Talos DS also, I hope I'm saying that right, also said that replacing the capacitors probably wouldn't have fixed the issue anyways, but he suggested doing it anyways just to, experiment and learn. I don't think there was else he mentioned. We could probably try that just for the sake of completionist, but I am like at a loss for words now. Okay, and there we go. We have sufficiently soldered on the capacitors. Now, two things I want to note. First off, when I was taking on this left capacitor, a chunk came off of the wax coating. So I don't know if that was just because of the sharp tweezers and just nicking something off, or if it had some sort of issue, and that was the problem. The second thing I want to mention was I took this other capacitor off, put it to the side, and when I went to go find it, it was missing. So I don't know if this one is the one that was still on there, or if it's like this one that was switched off. So I need to get one of those like mat organizers, the blue ones, you know, put your stuff in and keep it all contained, obviously. So, well, we have hopefully switched out these things. I think I got the orientation right on the capacitors. Thick line going towards the right, thick line going towards the left. And I think that is what we were needing. So, will there be any difference at all? No. No difference at all. Okay. Well, that was probably to be expected. I know Talos DS thought that it probably wouldn't do anything anyways. Well, we have done pretty much everything except for taking these chips off. And that is going to be an ordeal, because I've never done it before, and these are surface mounted and not through hole. So I'm going to have to try using some hot air. And I've not done that before. And we are done. That actually went a lot better than I was expecting it was going to go. Maybe I'm just a negative Nancy, but I thought that was rather easy and not as hard as I was thinking it was going to be. In fact, it was so easy that we lopped off the ROM chip as well as the mapper, which leaves us with this in particularly naked board here. Whatever I'm trying to say, I'm sure I'll get there eventually. Move you guys all the way down here. So we do have some vias and traces underneath where the ROM or the mapper is. We also have some underneath where the ROM is, so we can fully test out the continuity. And let's get Monty here, throw him into continuity mode. When Monty is happy and he finds his way home from red to black, he gives a little happy little beep. So let's go ahead and see, do we have continuity? Okay, goes there, here. And this goes here. This one goes somewhere it goes. Okay, goes there. I feel like we have a little fruitful search here, maybe. Well, nothing shorting and nothing missing, apparently. I know there's no mapper chip or ROM chip on this board, but would it be stupid to just try it? Because if it is the mapper or the ROM that's causing this issue, then without anything, there should be a boot logo, right? Am I being stupid? Is this a horrible idea? I don't know. We'll just grab this and pop it in and see what happens. Because if we get no Game Boy logo. Ah, interesting. Okay. Interesting. So it's not the board itself, because this is the game that had we had the ROM chip inserted here and the mapper here. Could it be the mapper? Could it be the ROM chip though? That's interesting. I wonder what would be causing the mapper or the ROM chip to act like that? Because thinking about this, we thought it might have been a shorted capacitor or a bad capacitor, or maybe some sort of bridging on this cartridge. So that's very, very interesting. I'm glad I tried that. So if we take this ROM chip here, and we put this back on the board, and then we grab Play Action Football, take that mapper off, and stick it to this. Well, that was quite the ordeal. But I think we're good. I hope. Possibly. Maybe. A dream is a wish your heart makes. We may have messed this up. Where the heck are all my tweezers at? I guess I'll just use a hook. We ended up using the old board, which is the original board for side pocket. Had to put the ROM chip back on. That was a little bit of a weird issue, but it looks like it's on there. This is the mapper for the play action football, and it was quite sketchy getting it on. I think I put it over to the right a little too much, and this is a little bit thin on this side, so we're gonna have to put some like UV solder mask or something, maybe some hot glue. The duct tape of the electrician's world, so it will not break off. I digress. Let's go ahead and go to where everybody's here for. Can we get this game working? Now, I'm pretty sure that I put the ROM chip on right. I think I did. I think. I hope. All right. Will the Game Boy blow up? Oh, it's... Is that normal? No way. No way. It's working. Right? That's working, right? I mean, looks okay, right? There's some glitchiness going on here, but that might be normal. It's actually working, right? This is fully working. It's got sound and everything. Huh. That's kind of cool, actually. I am at a loss for words. I actually so it was the memory bank control chip, right? I mean, that's... Go ahead and test it out on the Game Boy Advance SP, where we started from, too. Why not? The journey where we started from originally. I can't believe it. Yeah? That's great. Fascinating. So there must have been some sort of short or something in that memory chip. The mapper. I can't believe it. I cannot believe that it's actually working. So it wasn't the capacitors, it was the memory bank chip, which I thought it was originally, but I thought I was getting weird numbers, but I think I was reading it wrong or something. But yeah, that is so strange. There we have it. We actually were able to fix this game. We even used hot air soldering and reflowing, and it was really difficult to get those chips on. I think I need a little bit better technique. Maybe if I just used hot air to solder them back on or something. I don't know. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have been very, very appreciative and very happy with all the support and comments and all the positivity. You guys are awesome. Thank you for watching, and God bless.